For centuries, ignorance, fear, and hate have fueled death and destruction. This is a story of a dedicated group of Christians, Muslims, and Jews who, against all odds and ideological differences, believe it is possible to break down the barriers of ignorance, fear, and hate that are destroying the world.
You know, I was in school and everybody was like, 9/11, 9/11, and you know, the Arabs did it. And you know, I didn't know any better. I did not know any better that the actual pronunciation was Arab. I never said it anything, but I always thought the pronunciation was Arab. And that just shows how a person grows up and what I learned. And it was very big for me when they said it, like someone called me an Arab and how it compares to the N-word for me. And I never knew that. I never found that out. I never really understood it until I heard it come from their mouths.
Every ethnicity and every religion is persecuted in some way just because of that, because you know, it's what their parents tell them when they're young, it's what they've been growing up, the message that they've been getting, you know, even subconsciously through different media and through different things. It is an unintentional message, but the message still gets across, and when you're young and you don't know any better, you grow up with it.
After September 11th, a lot of people were scared. And, you know, when I hear about suicide bombings, you're just like, you can't understand it. But I think that you realize that those are just people, you know, those aren't the entire religion. It's not the entire faith that does this.
My friend's best friend's mother just got shot yesterday. And it was just, we were on the phone in tears because he was just so hurt. And it was just like, why would someone do that? What is the purpose of that? Mothers, daughters, sons, brothers getting shot over what, you know? Because of a lack of knowledge, a lack of peace, a lack of understanding. And that's what it all leads to. Ignorance plays a big, big part in death.
People are getting used to this idea of conflict when really it shouldn't be that we're getting used to. It should be the other way around. We should be working towards a more peaceful solution. But it's just very sad that people get used to this idea of conflict in their lives.
This sort of paralyzing thing called hate, you know? It's really sick, it's really sad, and I think that that's the biggest step, is to really understand that hate comes from somewhere, and fear comes from somewhere, and those are legitimate emotions, but they're not constructive. And if we can sort of help those emotions to fade, not even fade fully, but to, you know, open up a little bit. I think that in and of itself is probably the biggest lesson that we will take from Children of Abraham. That's, to me, its largest accomplishment.
The Children of Abraham came about when Brenda Rosenberg and I were talking, and she asked me, she said, "Hey, Ma'am Abdullah, what do you think we can do to help bring peace into the world?"
Imam Abdullah, he didn't even hesitate for a second. It's like he'd been thinking about this his whole life. And he said, "You know, Brenda, if everyone knew we had the same father, Father Abraham, it might go a long way to bring back the family together. And if everyone knew that Isaac and Ishmael came back together to bury their father, it might even stop the bloodshed."
And she thought about it a while, and she said she went home and even dreamed about it that night.
That night, I had the most amazing dream of my life. I saw a stage, and on a theater stage, Isaac and Ishmael were leaving the caves at Machpelah together. And enter from stage left this beautiful angel, Raphaela. And she put her big wings around the boys and sat them down and took them through a 4-step healing process.
Christian, Muslim, and Jewish high school students were invited to break bread together, shattering the taboo about interacting with those perceived as strangers, different, or even enemies.
It's always hard to come and release things that are, very emotional for you. Things that are, you probably don't tell that many people.
We broke bread together and we, had pizza together and chips, and we, after school would get together. And so first it was, coming into an environment where you could just talk about everyday things.
We got to know each other. We talked, exchanged names and religions and things like that. So when we stepped into the room, it was already set that we were going to talk and have fun. It was so easy to get to know them, and when you get to know a person, it's easy for you to accept them, all parts of them. So it's easy to accept their stories and hearing from them. And when I heard from what they go through and compared it to what I go through every day as African American Christian,
it's about one-on-one interaction, retail engagement, rather than this wholesale environment where you start lecturing to the choir or lecturing to those that don't agree. It's going to have to come from person to person, one-on-one interaction. And from there, we're going to work outwards and build and build.
Make sure people feel comfortable. If you're comfortable, you can open up. And when you open up, you can create magic.
Each of the participants shared their stories of being victims of hate and prejudice. They told their stories uninterrupted. No one was allowed to comment, judge, or criticize. The teens felt heard. Their thoughts and beliefs were recognized and respected.
At first, all of us were just kind of quiet. We didn't really know exactly how to step into it. Were we supposed to discuss the things that we actually felt? Should we be politically correct about what we felt so that, we don't want to offend anybody? But we were talking about topics that were very close to our hearts.
There was this activity that we had to do where we had to draw, and you had to draw kind of just what you thought about. And so this one girl who was from Dearborn drew an Israeli flag, and she put a cross through it, she X'd it out. And I'd never really experienced anything like that before. And I didn't know how to react.